Is everybody in?
Before we get started,
Everybody in?
does anyone want to get out?
Everybody in.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows
Ceremony
things
is
are bad.
about to
It's a
begin.
depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. We don't go out anymore. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. There's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my... I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. At first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Go.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Yun. Good evening. Today is Thursday, August 18, 8:32 in the evening. As usual, I hope you are all doing well. I hope that you are doing great. I hope you are safe with your family, hopefully enjoying dinner or have already eaten dinner. Maayong gabi, Ma'am Mary Chris Tribo. Good evening, good evening. As usual, I'll try to make this brief. I just had a few thoughts that I came across earlier, and I think it's worthy to discuss following what we had last night. So this will just be another brief encounter. Good evening, Sir Julio Jose Lapot. Good evening. Thank you again for continuously supporting our program. I came across a quote from J. Krishnamurti, and I think it's very apt. And I have a personal experience with this. Um, when my daughter Bugay, I fondly call her Bugay. She was, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 years old at the time, and we were asking her because she was already starting school. We were asking her like, "What would you like to be when you grow up? Would you like to be a doctor? Would you like to be a lawyer, or anything? What your plans? What are your plans? What would you like to be when you grow up?" And she fondly answered, "Tao lang, human only." So that really struck a chord with me and my wife, and actually a lot of people we knew when I share that story, they can't help but smile. And there's a power and gravity towards that innocent answer that really resonates with me. And until now, it has that special place in my heart. And I just got reminded of it again in a more profound manner when I when I was browsing about and read this quote from J. Krishnamurti. He says, "When you call yourself an Indian or a Muslim or a Christian or a European or anything else, you're being violent. Do you see why this is violent? Because you are separating yourself from the rest of mankind. When you separate yourself by belief, by nationality, by tradition, it breeds violence. So a man who is seeking to understand violence does not belong to any country, to any religion, to any political party or partial system. He is concerned with the total understanding of mankind." This is J. Krishnamurti. And to continue the article, it also says all religions of the world contain narratives, symbols, and metaphors of violence and war. Religious violence is violence that is motivated or in reaction to religious precepts, texts, or doctrines of a target or an attacker. It includes violence against religious institutions, people, objects, or events. Religion plays a role in some of the most repeated conflict zones of the world, and religious conflicts constitute increasing share of violent conflicts today. For many individuals and groups, religious belief seem to give a moral ammunition to justify and carry out violence. Religious extremists can contribute to conflict escalation. They see radical measures as a necessary measure to fulfill God's wishes. Fundamentalists of any religion tend to take a Manichaean view of the world. If the world is a struggle between good and evil, it is hard to justify compromising with the devil. The golden rule, it is often claimed that religion causes conflict and war. It is true that sometimes deeply held beliefs can lead to clashes, and there have been many wars that were caused by disputes over religion and beliefs. However, for many, religion can be a power for peace. Anthropological studies have proven that religion has been dividing human society for more than 2,000 years. What is nationalism? In most contexts today, nationalism is the policy or doctrine of asserting the interest of one's own nation viewed as separate from the interest of other nations or common interests of all nations. In short, nationalism, these are my own words, nationalism has become a kind of aggressive, excessive patriotism. What is meant by blind patriotism? Blind nationalism is extreme nationalism, such as Nazism, fascism, communism, and chauvinism. It is primarily a platform for familiar militarism, love of personality cults, classism, pride for national symbolism, origin and founding myths and saints. Patriotism has always divided us. National memory can unite us. Do not separate yourself from the rest of mankind. We are all the same. We are humans. Stop saying we and them, and we are one. Good evening, Sir Francis, Jim Francis Merico. Good evening. So, from this short article, I think we can connect it with yesterday's broadcast, and it simply states taking away a lot of words, going back to its original point, following the crowd, not really knowing what's behind the reason for the clashes, for the ideology that you stand for. It becomes a way for us to be manipulated into acting something something that goes against with the precepts of the whole ideology itself. Religion is supposed to bring us together. Nationalism supposed to bring us together. Patriotism is supposed to bring us together. However, when you start including personal biases, when you start including ego as part of the equation, when you start creating a cult of personality, it distorts the message. We're not supposed to be so far from each other. We're not supposed to be different from one another. Yes, we have our own differences. However, we are all human. We are all man. We are all women. We are all living in the same world. So I guess my whole point is, I think before we start becoming part of an organized body or trying to rally behind a concept, an idea, I think it's something we need to think about really hard before we even commit to it. We have to understand it, we have to do our own research, and we have to look at the people pushing this particular narrative or a particular agenda before we put our full identity behind it. It's easy to get lost in a particular message, especially if it's hidden behind religion or if it's hidden behind something wonderful in the beginning. We can be blinded by good words, we can be blinded by self motivated action. Virtue signaling is very powerful, especially in these moments and this time of social media. It's very hard to see behind the curtain sometimes, but I think you are intelligent enough to see people who really are trying to make a difference, people who are really doing their best to help out. And I hope we are able to support these people, and I hope we are able to have our own message to spread, a message of peace, a message of understanding, and a message of unity. And let's not forget that tao lang. We are only human. We have our faults. Everyone has dirt under their fingernail. In one way or the other, we all share a moment of weakness. We all have moments that we are not proud of. And I see no reason, I don't see that there's any reason for us to be ashamed of that. We should be proud if we have learned from it. I think it's better that we, at least in some way, acknowledge, be honest enough that we are at some point at fault, always have an open mind, and never prejudge people just because of the color of their skin, the shape of their eye, or the language they speak. Racism is not even limited to just the color of your skin or where you are. It's ever present wherever we are. Even in our own country where we're all basically the same, there is racism. So it's only apt for us to remember we are human. Tao lang. So I think that's it. There isn't too much that I have to say. Good evening, Sir Francis Luna. Good evening. Good evening. Yes, ma'am. That is very true. Tao lang. Hindi naman pastor, hindi naman papi. So again, as a final message, before we close it out, we're all human. Let's not forget that. Let's always remember that in our wins, others have lost, and in our losses, others have won. So maybe, just maybe, if we start looking at people other than ourselves, we would be able to see a strategy, we would be able to see a way for us to learn in our mistakes. Maybe, just maybe, the person that we are going up against can teach us how to overcome our own issues or overcome our own shortcomings to make us a better person. So let's look beyond always. Let's scratch the surface. Sometimes we fail to see what's important. So most of the time we commit mistakes, but we learn from the mistakes. And that's what makes us strong. So we need to accept our mistakes in order for us not to commit another mistake in the future and to become a better person. Amen. Yes, ma'am. That is correct. Very true. Very true. And good evening, the Boogeyman. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. So again, this is Joey Kimura for Elias Journeys. Have a wonderful and safe rest of your evening. And God bless you and your family. Thank you very much for watching. Life is about making choices. Choose to be human. Thank you. Thank you.
Is everybody in?
Before we get started,
Everybody in?
does anyone want to get out?
Everybody.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows
Ceremony
things
is
are
about
bad.
to
It's a
begin.
depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. You don't go out anymore. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. There's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my... I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. At first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Here we go.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.